Yes. How's everyone doing tonight? I hope you're all...
Wonderful.
Whoa, why is that so low? I hope you're all...
Wonderful.
A little bit better. I'm not so...
Wonderful.
I'm actually feeling pretty sick today, guys. So I'm actually going to zip through this, if I had to be perfectly honest with you. We're doing fight briefing. Welcome to episode number 20. Ufc Norfolk, or UFC Fight Night 169, or UFC on ESPN Plus 27. Now, I'm pretty amazed. They actually did a pretty good job putting this card together. I'm going to run through the main card, and we're going to talk about my picks. We're going to talk about your guys' picks, and then we're going to shut this shit down because I got to go make dinner. All right. No, it's not like a cold. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, lightheaded, cloudy, headache, nauseous, sick. Not a good feeling. All right. So we have UFC Fight Night 169. The main event is Benavidez versus Figueiredo. This weekend is actually a pretty rare card, I think, because it is a title fight as the main event of a fight night, which is fascinating to me, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting for some other people to watch as well. Unfortunately for some fans, this is about as close to a boxing card as you'll get from the UFC in terms of having some intriguing fights on the undercard, but nothing that's really likely to affect much leading into the main card. So let's go ahead and take a look at who's on the main card for this weekend. Starting off the main card, we have Grant Dawson versus Darrick Minner. And then Megan Anderson versus Norma Dumont. Ian Cutelaba versus Magomed Ankalaev.
Man, you better back up or you're going to go to sleep. Man, you need to back up or you can go to sleep too.
JBH the Queen #crew.
Carnage!
Wonderful.
Welcome, Carnage. Thank you for being here. All right. So our co-main event, Felicia Spencer versus Zarah Fairn. Zarah Fairn. And then Joseph Benavidez versus Figueiredo is the main event, which is pretty exciting. Why is everyone dropping a bunch of weird face emojis in the chat? You guys are such weirdos, man. You guys are such weirdos. All right. Let me, do I don't know what kind of sound effect that was. I did my best. I'm sorry. Grant Dawson versus Darrick Minner. The first fight of the main card. Very interesting, this fight, simply because this wasn't originally supposed to be on the main card. I'm just going to start by saying that it's a little bit weird, in my opinion. It was thrown on for short notice because Chas Skelly pulled out due to injury. Grant Dawson is a big favorite in this fight, something to keep in mind. He's a big favorite. A lot of people think he's going to take the win, and I couldn't disagree. Dawson is riding a 5-fight winning streak right now, leading into this bout, which includes two wins from the UFC. I don't know what I just said. Darrick Minner has finally made it to the UFC after 34 fights on the regional circuit. It's a little bit more difficult to tell with this guy, and I know you're not supposed to really pick a fight based on simply whether or not they're on a win or lose streak, but this is something that definitely to keep in mind. Now, I would say stepping in on a couple of days' notice is really going to work against Minner. However, so I definitely think that that's going to be a huge contributing factor here as well. I don't want to spend too much time on this fight because, quite frankly, I'm not that interested in it. But it is, I guess, a decent fight to throw together for the first fight of the main card, especially for a fight night. So bottom line for this fight, guys, Dawson is a powerful striker. He does have a pretty decent submission game, and I can see him kind of adding Minner's name to his record within a round or two. So I'm just going to go Dawson for submission here. I think that his ground game is definitely going to shine a little bit more than his game on the feet. So I'm going to go with Dawson by submission. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Darren R says, bum excuse squad. JBH gonna hurl, says Drunk Savage. No, thank you though. I appreciate I appreciate your positivity, Drunk. Annie says, Greg, hey, and I'm still having a miserable day or evening. Uh-oh, Annie's just having a miserable day. That's horrible. I choose babyface. Jesse says, Andre Villa Franca. Is this boxing? No, this is not boxing. This is MMA. This is this weekend, UFC Fight Night 169. I'm going with the guy that's going to win. Hello, JBH. Hello, Rogelio. Justin Jr. says to everyone who thinks this card is good, get the sharpest knife out of my kitchen and cut the bullshit out. JBH has the Woo Flu. JBH, get better. Thank you. Frost says, and the Frostman is back. All right, Frostman.
Back up, you're going to go to sleep. And then you need to back up or you can go to sleep too.
Who the fuck are these guys? Put me down for 5 on Cutelaba.
All right. Well, we'll get the Chrome. And that's kind of where I was when I first saw the first fight of the main card. But listen, you can't hate it. It's a short notice fight, and I think for the UFC to put together a fight that makes some sort of matchup sense, you can't kill him for it, right? All right, guys. Our next fight on the card is Megan Anderson versus Norma Dumont. Now, after her losses to Holly Holm, oh, no. That's for the Felicia Spencer fight. I take that back. Psh. Well, we'll get there. Anderson. Honestly, I can understand why some people might want to write Anderson off in this fight. But to me, it's difficult to do. I do feel that she is still just in the years of her prime. She's only 30 years old. She's got quite a few years of experience behind her. And quite honestly, I wouldn't go so far as to say that she's extremely well-rounded, but she is certainly still edging off her game quite brilliantly, if you ask me, as far as her fighting style is concerned. We did get to see a little bit of improvement when she fought Fairn, who's also on the card on Saturday night, a couple months ago in 2019. Now, during that fight, we were able to notice quite a bit of a change in her grappling game, a new grappling game, I guess you could say. Hold on, let me just fix this real quick, guys. A little OCD going on here. Thank you. All right. So she did have a little bit of a new grappling game, and I think the fact of the matter is she can do a tremendous amount of damage. We have seen that to any of her opponents when it comes to striking, and I do think she can hold her own against some opponents with her grappling game. I think these are really going to lean sort of in her favor with an opponent like Dumont, who quite honestly doesn't really stand as much of a chance. I think as a competitor, this is a little bit of a layup for Megan Anderson. Now, at 6 foot, Anderson is a freaking giant in her division, and honestly, I think you could consider her a true 145 pounder as opposed to a blown up 135 pounder like the majority of the division. And so that means that she ought to be a big favorite over Dumont, who has very little experience. She has 4 fights in her career that started back in 2016, and she doesn't appear to be anywhere near as big as Megan, and that's definitely going to put her at a disadvantage here. Now, Dumont doesn't seem to be relatively well-rounded, and she does seem to shine a little bit with her grappling, but I worry because, like I said, Megan, she has had a few struggles with that area before, which could bode well for Dumont, but I'm not convinced that that's going to be enough to really save her in this fight. It will shed some light on just how much Megan has been working on her grappling game, but that's about it. I'm actually pretty confident in taking Anderson to win this fight, though, given that Dumont does have lower levels of experience in certain areas, and it's also quite a bit easier to consider her suffering from that octagon shock as well. So I'm going to go with Anderson by KO. Let me know who you guys have in the chat.
Back up, you're going to go to sleep. And then you need to back up or you can go to sleep too.
Chrome.
He. You hear that? That's Anderson Horse family calling her.
Oh, God.
That her looks just like Secretariat. I bet she runs on all 4s when she's back home. I bet her ass sleeps in a stable too. Her favorite food is freshly made hay. Twin Tower looking ass.
That was nasty, Chrome. That was a nasty comment. Those are mean things. You should never say things like that about someone. It's horrible. All right. Let me know what you guys have in the chat. Megan Anderson or Dumont. Greg Golden Blaze says, I've never seen these two fight, I think. Post Resurrected, the tall bush for the win. Darren R says, I'm 5'2" and pumped like Bum Squad. Mike H laughing in the chat. Pulse says, Bish? What? Fook both mods. It says J Gomez. All right. Anderson via toe to eye says Drunk Savage. And we're going to move on to the next fight over here. I actually just scrolled it. We have Ian Cutelaba versus Magomed Ankalaev. Thank you, Stephen Perlowski. I would say that this is easily the second best fight on the card behind the main event. I think it's going to be a clash of two of our best prospects in the division right now. And honestly, I really feel that this isn't going to be something that's going to put you to sleep, this fight. This might be the fight that I am, if it weren't for the title in the main event, I think this would be the fight that I would be the absolute most excited for. Cutelaba has a record of 15-4-0, and Ankalaev has a record of 12-1-0. Now, I'll just start off the briefing of this fight by saying that Cutelaba has more UFC experience than Ankalaev does. He does have a tendency to destroy his less athletic opponents with a combination of, brutal strikes. He's got powerful striking, and, you could argue that he's, pretty decent on the ground as well. I will say, when his opponent seems to be a tad more technical and strategic in fighting style, we generally notice that Cutelaba will start off quick and then kind of fade out. And not really have as much control towards the later rounds. Some good examples, I would honestly, I would use Cannonier or Teixeira or Sirkinov. That's another one. You kind of see that he starts off quick and he can easily be worn down towards the end. So he might have to be a little bit careful of that. But overall, I do agree that Cutelaba has some crazy good skill. He does carry insane power in his striking. His takedowns are pretty strong as well. Even if he prefers to throw bombs at his opponent, he can still handle himself if it comes to grappling. Now, judging by what we've seen of Ankalaev in the octagon, I would argue that he's as good as those higher level top tier fighters. He did take an unfortunate loss to Paul Craig when he debuted, but ever since then, he completely cleaned up his act, and he has been on an insane run ever since. He's got a couple knockouts. He's grappled an opponent to a decision. Now, there was one fight that I did come across, actually, that I heard about in an article I was reading, where this fighter that Ankalaev fought was very similar in strategy to Cutelaba, and that was Lungjambula. And I didn't even think about that until I had read over this. There were a lot of similarities to Cutelaba with Lungjambula. He was highly explosive. He's an incredibly athletic striker. He's incredibly skilled on the feet, and he does have the tendency to slow down. Now, we saw Ankalaev find a way to take Lungjambula down and completely smash him into oblivion in that fight. Now, that's where Cutelaba might have a little bit of a downfall if he fights the same way, because Ankalaev has fought that before. He knows how to take him down. Cutelaba does have the opportunity to use his wrestling a little bit more, a little more maturely than Lungjambula did, but I am worried he can still be out-grappled by Ankalaev. So I'm going to say, bottom line for this fight, I think this fight was a little bit more difficult to pick because you do have two pretty decent fighters, good in skill, but I do believe Ankalaev is going to have a little bit more work to do here. Given that Cutelaba has a lot more power under his belt, I also think that it'll be a little bit of a shock as to just how good Ankalaev can be in these types of situations. I can honestly see him as a title contender in 2 to 3 fights, and this will be his first step closer to that status. So I'm going to go with Ankalaev by decision. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. All right, Marky Rose says, exploding Gweg. Okra is like a natural laxative, bro. Vigo with the toilet, says Mike H. I had a latte from Dunkin' Donuts. It gave me diarrhea. That is pretty disgusting, man. Captain Boomerang looking ass boy for the win, says Pulse Resurrected. Shannon Stewart says Drunk Savage. Sup. ST, worst main of the year. Well, for a fight night, Like, I get it, but for a fight night, you would think, you know, it is a little bit better for the UFC to put together, given that you've got a title defense, you know, on the line. This card sucks. I'm only looking forward to Cutelaba, says Andre. Daniel says, feel better, drunk savage, not the daggy. And H. Vigo S., I'm so glad you pooped good after you ate okra. All right. Let's move on to the next fight of the night. The co-main event, Felicia Spencer versus Zarah Fairn dos Santos. Now, I would argue that the women's featherweight division is easily the most underdeveloped division on the UFC roster, and so it's a breath of fresh air to kind of see two female fights at 145 pounds on the main card. I think that's a little bit interesting. I'm not the biggest fan of WMMA. I've repeated it over and over again, but it is fascinating to me that the UFC is kind of pushing it a little bit. With that said, the nature of the division means that it is really hard to kind of get a handle on how good these fighters are and to really break a fight down. Now, Felicia Spencer, we'll just start by saying she's an absolute beast, this girl. When she debuted, it was against Megan Anderson, and we saw a side of her that was a little bit unexpected. People expected Megan Anderson just to trample all over her, and that's not what happened in the least bit. We actually got to see Felicia Spencer out-grapple Megan Anderson, which was baffling because Anderson was pretty highly rated at the time. And from that point forward, it was a complete nightmare. When she fought CRIS Cyborg, even though she lost, she gave Cyborg a run for her money. She did end up getting overpowered in that fight, but that's a talented fighter you've got there. Now, Dos Santos also debuted against Megan Anderson, but it was a totally different outcome for her. Anderson actually out-grappled Dos Santos and submitted her with the triangle choke. So it's pretty clear here that on the skill, you know, who the skill really lies with when it comes to work on the ground would obviously be in favor of Spencer. Dos Santos may not stand a fighting chance here, if I had to be perfectly honest. So bottom line for this fight, from what I've been able to see of Dos Santos, she does seem to be a relatively decent striker. She seems to be comfortable on the feet, but I am worried that her power isn't all there, and you need a lot of power. I mean, Cyborg came at Spencer fucking hard. Given that CRIS Cyborg really was given a run for her money by Felicia Spencer, and Spencer was able to kind of take out a developing grappler like Megan Anderson, I think it's pretty safe to say that Spencer has her beat all around. I would think it's safe to say, or safe to assume, that Spencer is going to take Dos Santos down earlier and choke her out pretty quick. So I'm going to go with Spencer by submission in the first round. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. Please don't talk about runs, JVH, says Vigo. I didn't think there were 4 women in the 145-pound division. Greg Odenblaze is smiling. Spencer all day. Pulse is sleepy. Mike H dropping the yarn balls in the chat. Jake T says, if I was betting on that co-main event fight, my money would be on the black guy. Shannon Sturt says, Spender. Spencer for the win, she says. Levels says Ben. Greg Odenblaze says there's a lot of Neanderthal DNA.
Go to sleep. And then you need to back up and you can go to sleep too.
Chrome.
Give me Spencer. She beat the living shit out of Anderson and she stood toe-to-toe with Cyborg. Plus Spencer has a fatty.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you, Chrome. All right, guys, let's move on to the main event of the night. We have Joseph Benavidez versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Now, like I said, I like this fight. I do like that this is a title fight. I like that they put this as the main event of a fight night because most fight nights are generally a little bit more tough to watch, especially as of late. I will say the last fight night was really good. Well, it wasn't really good, but it was better. They're getting better as the year, progresses. So this one I like. I like it a lot. Now, Benavidez has a pretty decent striking game. We've seen in his past fights that he does have that knockout power that he would need against a more heavy hitter like Figueiredo. Benavidez is also a superior wrestler, which I think could bode well for him. I'm unsure how often we might really see him use it in this fight, but it's definitely there if he needs it. But that's just simply because Figueiredo, I think he's surely going to look to keep this on the feet. So I don't think you're really going to see much of it on the ground. The issue for Benavidez here, though, is that he's now 35 years old. Now, Figueiredo is only 3 years younger than him, but Benavidez has been fighting for ages, since 2006 to be exact, and it would be easy to question whether or not Benavidez's best days are actually behind him, and is that going to conflict with his overall skill against a younger Figueiredo leading into this fight. Then there's the fact that Figueiredo appears to hit harder than any other 125 pounder on the roster, which is crazy. This guy has thrown some insane haymakers in the past, and honestly the power behind his punches is quite honestly just a more exciting fighting style to watch, in my opinion. Like I said, Benavidez is a great striker, but I worry that if these two get into a heavy exchange, Figueiredo may just have exactly what he needs to take Benavidez out. Now, I'm favoring Benavidez here. Overall, I think the styles seem to mesh well for him. He has far more experience as a main event fighter than Figueiredo does. I don't think he's going to let the awe kind of get to him quite as much as Figueiredo might, and he'll definitely be a little more focused than his opponent will. I also believe that the fact that a title is on the line, you know, I think for any fighter fighting for the title in a main event, especially on a fight night, it's easy to kind of let that get to your head a little bit and maybe make you lose focus. And I don't think that Benavidez is really going to let that get to him. So overall, I think Benavidez kind of works him and takes him to a, you know, late stoppage and picks up that first major title. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. All right, Dale Jefferson says MMA-Holes #1. This will be a hard card to stay awake for. If you live up north, I would say yes. Jake Kivler says you're a beast. Agreed. Is the heat an important feature on the bidet? Yes, if you like warm water on your bidet, absolutely. I hope they kill each other, says Drunk Savage. I got my money on Figueiredo. All right, guys, so first of all, I just want to give a shout out to all the sources that I used to research the fights tonight: Wild Culture, Sportskeeda, Betting Shark, Forbes, BetDSI, and Tapology. And before I go, we actually got an email from Dottie ANZALONE, Mikey's mom, and I wanted to read that to you guys real quick. But don't forget to sign up for Tapology, link in the description to the MMAHoles.com, so that you can play against us. If you disagree with my picks, join Tapology and make your picks, and we will challenge each other, and whoever wins, we count it each month, and then whoever the winner is at the end of the year will get a special prize. Yes, a belt to be exact. So make sure you sign up for Tapology. Before we go, Dottie ANZALONE did send us a nice little message, and the only reason I'm reading it to you guys is because she did kind of give you guys a shout out too, so I thought it was really cool, and you guys might get a kick out of it. So here's what she said. Dear Jess and Chris, I'd like to thank you both, along with so many of your members, for keeping Mike's name going. I've heard you two talking about him, and I cannot read the names as the threads move so quickly. I'd like to thank Roberto Hernandez, Drunk Savage, PD Kinshiro, Flat Earth Deacon, Sean Hart, Sean McKenzie, Ann, and Mike, and everyone whose names I didn't quite catch, but thanks. I'm wondering if you're moving in the near future, as I would like to send you something and I have your New York address. I hope you love Arizona. I recently read that Flagstaff is a great city. No, not just because I watched Sister Wives and they recently moved there. Really. You are all the best of the best. Mike loved all of you. Love, Dottie. We love you, Dottie. That was actually really sweet. I when I read that, I thought you guys would get a kick out of it. So make sure you guys drop in the chat. Tell Dottie you love her. Tell her, and we always give Mikey a kiss over here before every show. So thank you, Dottie. We really appreciate it. And we'll always stay in contact with her and make sure she's doing okay. All right, guys. I think that's it for tonight. I'm going to go make some chicken soup. And I hope you guys holy shit. Should I call Chris in here? Chris! Come here.
Super chat.
You're not going to believe
Tomorrow's
this.
dump after my Mexican dinner will be more exciting than this card.
Texas veteran just donated $100. He says, tomorrow's dump after my Mexican dinner will be more exciting than this card. Thank you so much, Texas veteran! Moss can't hear the music, but he'll dance in the background.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much, Texas veteran. Right in the nick of time. Holy crap. Order takeout now. No, we're having chicken soup tonight. We're sick. We're both sick. I think I woke up Moss. He was taking a nap. Thank you so much, Texas veteran. We really appreciate your support. Jesus Christ.
Man, you need to back up, or you can go to sleep too.
Chrome to you,
My
don't.
daughter is already almost bigger than these fuckers. I'm pretty sure I could find a 13-year-old that could beat the fuck out of both of these little humans. Rip Mikey. I know you're building me a house up there so I can watch everyone else walk in.
That's awesome. All right, Chrome. Chrome always has to be like the awkward guy, right? He always has to make things awkward. Thank you, Chrome. Appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's supported the show tonight. If you'd like to continue supporting the show, we have Patreon down in the description below. And with that being said, we will be live tomorrow, Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern time for Fuqua Friday, and then we'll be live this weekend on Saturday for the fight. So make sure you join us for both of those nights. And yeah, chicken soup time. All right. I hope you guys have a swell evening. And now it's time to bid you farewell. So, rest in peace, Mikey. We love you. Thank you, ANZALONE. And as always, guys, don't be an a-hole. Be an MMA hole.